Okay, so I want you to picture a scene. It's the Paris 2024 Olympics. You're watching the equestrian events, dressage.
Like the height of class, super refined.
Exactly. It's all about discipline. It's quiet, it's focused. And sitting there, right in the front row, wearing a full riding helmet, an equestrian blazer, is a guy who maybe 30 years ago was basically the face of America's biggest cultural nightmare.
It's such a striking image. It really is. It almost creates this cognitive dissonance, doesn't it? If you show that picture, just that single frame, to a suburban parent in, say, 1993, they wouldn't just be confused. I think they might actually panic.
They might panic, yeah. And of course, we're talking about Calvin Cordozar Broadus Jr.
Better known to the entire planet as Snoop Dogg.
And the easy narrative here, right, the one you always see in the headlines, is that he sold out or he softened up. But we've got this whole stack of sources here today. I'm talking court transcripts, business filings, discographies, old interviews, and they all suggest something way, way more complex is going on.
Oh, absolutely. The sellout narrative is just, it's lazy. It completely misses the actual mechanism of what happened here.
Right.
We're not just looking at a rapper who got a little older and decided to, bake some cookies on a TV show.
Yeah.
This is a legitimate case study in brand evolution, in crisis management, and really in the history of modern pop culture itself.
So what's our mission today? What are we trying to unpack?
I think our mission is to analyze how a teenager from Long Beach, who is staring down a first-degree murder charge and a very real possibility of a life sentence, how that person transformed into this ubiquitous, almost universally beloved American mascot.
It is genuinely wild when you just list it all out. I mean, he's a character in Call of Duty. He's analyzing sports for NBC. They got a cooking show with Martha Stewart. He's a legit tech investor.
And yet, and this is the craziest part, he still somehow maintains this street credibility.
Yes.
That kind of cred usually just evaporates. It's gone the second an artist signs a big corporate deal. But for him, it sticks.
So that's the core tension, right? That's what we need to explore today. How did he cross that chasm? We're going to unpack this whole evolution from the deep cover era right into the boardroom. And we have to be thorough because the details of how he pulled this off, they're fascinating.
Yeah, they really are.
So let's start at the very beginning. We have to go back to the soil that grew him. Long Beach, California, October 20, 1971.
The setting is absolutely crucial. But even before that, we have to look at the family dynamics, because they really do set the stage for everything that comes later.
Okay.
So he was born to Beverly Tate and Vernell Varnado. Now, Vernell, that's his biological father, was a Vietnam veteran and, interestingly, a singer.
Ah, so the musical DNA was there from day one.
It was definitely there, but the father figure himself wasn't. Vernell left the family really early on, I think only about 3 months after Snoop was born.
Wow.
So the name the world knows him by, Broadus, that actually comes from his stepfather, Calvin Cordozar Broadus Sr. That's the man who raised him and gave him his name.
But the name that made him famous, Snoop, that came from his mother, didn't it?
It did, and I love this origin story because it's just so disarmingly innocent.
Right.
She started calling him Snoopy because she honestly thought he looked like the little beagle from the Peanuts cartoon.
That's amazing. The guy who would become the poster child for gangster rap was literally named after a cartoon dog.
It kind of speaks to a softness, that it was always there, maybe buried underneath a public image.
Right.
And we absolutely have to talk about the church. This is a detail that gets glossed over so often in the tough gangster biographies. He was raised Baptist.
Okay.
He spent a huge chunk of his childhood singing and playing piano at the Golgotha Trinity Baptist Church.
And his mother was in the choir, right? She was the one who introduced him to all that old school R&B.
Exactly. And this is so critical for understanding his musical style later on.
Oh.
You have to ask, why does Snoop sound so different from almost every other rapper in 1992?
It's the melody.
It's the melody. He had a melodic foundation. He wasn't just about percussion and rhythm. He understood melody. But, as you can imagine, outside the church walls, the reality of 1980s Long Beach was, it was waiting for him.
The grind.
The grind and the environment, yeah. He was hustling from a young age, selling candy, delivering newspapers, bagging groceries at the local store. But despite his mother's best efforts to keep him on that church path, let's call it the gravity of the neighborhood, it just took over.
And by his teenage years, he was affiliated.
Yeah, he joined the Rollin' 20s Crips.
And the legal trouble started pretty much immediately after he graduated high school, right?
It was like a revolving door.
Yeah.
He graduated from Long Beach Polytechnic High School in 1989. And very shortly after that, he was arrested for possession of cocaine. And for the next 3 years, he was just constantly in and out of incarceration.
Places like Wayside Jail.
Exactly. It's that classic tragic story of immense potential meeting a dead end or what looks like a dead end.
But obviously he found a way out. And that way out was the music. This brings us to the formation of his original crew.
213.
213.
Named after the telephone area code for Long Beach at the time, it was Snoop, his cousin Nate Dogg.
Who had that incredible, soulful baritone voice. Unmistakable.
Oh, just one of the greatest voices in hip-hop history. Then you had Little Half Dead and his friend Warren G.
And Warren G is the key. He's the golden ticket in this whole story.
He is the connector.
Oh.
Absolutely.
Why?
Because Warren G is Dr. Dre's stepbrother.
There it is.
So you have this group of kids, they're just recording homemade tapes at a local spot, VIP Records in Long Beach, just hoping for a break.
And the breakthrough happens because of one specific freestyle tape.
Yes. Soup freestyled over M Vogue's Hold On.
Which is an R&B track. That's such a key detail.
Yeah.
He wasn't rapping over some hard boom-bap East Coast beat. He was flowing over smooth, melodic R&B.
100%. And that specific tape, somehow it makes its way to Dr. Dre. Dre is listening to this at a bachelor party, of all places. Can you imagine? He was so blown away by the flow, the voice, the way Snoop just rode that sample, that he invited him to audition.
And this was for, what, Future Shock Records?
Future Shock, which was the direct precursor to the legendary Death Row Records.
But even then, he wasn't a finished product. I was reading about the mentorship he got from the DOC, and it sounds like he needed some pretty serious coaching at first.
Oh, this is a detail that real hip-hop heads just love. The DOC is a legend in his own right, an absolute brilliant lyricist.
The genius.
He basically sat Snoop down and taught him the architecture of a song. You have to understand, Snoop was a pure freestyler. He could just go off the top of his head for hours, just rambling and weaving these incredible stories.
But it wasn't structured.
No structure at all. And the DOC taught him that. He said, look, here's a 16-bar verse. Here is the hook. Here is the chorus. He literally turned a raw freestyler into a professional songwriter.
And that transition is what allowed him to really define his artistry. We have to spend a minute on what the sources call the drawl. Because in the early 90s, rap was loud.
It was very, very high energy.
Yeah.
I mean, you had Public Enemy, you had NWA's more aggressive tracks. So much of it was about volume and intensity. It was about literally screaming on the track to get your political point across.
And Snoop just went the complete opposite direction.
The molasses drawl, that's what the critics called it. And they noticed it immediately. While everyone else was shouting, Snoop was speaking softly.
It's laid back.
It's so laid back. He used syncopation and this almost lazy phrasing to create a vibe that forced you, as the listener, to lean in. He wasn't begging for your attention. He was commanding it by being quiet.
And it's interesting because despite the DOC's training on structure, he kept that freestyle spirit. I read that people like Lady of Rage and others who were in the studio said he often didn't write lyrics down at all.
That's absolutely right. I mean, take a classic track like The Shiznit from Doggystyle. That was one take. A complete freestyle. He just got in the zone in the booth and busted it out. That level of natural talent to compose a cohesive classic song in real time, it's just incredibly rare.
So he hooks up with Dre, he finds this completely unique voice, and then the explosion happens. It really starts with Deep Cover in '92.
Deep Cover was the warning shot. You know, it's a theme song for a movie, but it became this massive street anthem. It was the world's introduction to Snoop Dogg.
With the Chronic. The Chronic was the full-scale invasion.
It was. Snoop was featured so heavily all over Dr. Dre's The Chronic, especially on Nothing But a G-Thing.
Which you could argue is one of the most important hip-hop singles of all time. It changed everything.
It set the stage perfectly for what was probably the most anticipated debut album in hip-hop history, Doggystyle, 1993.
The numbers are still just staggering, even by today's streaming standards.
They're mind-boggling. It debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200. It sold 806,000 copies in the first week.
Let's just sit with that. 806,000 units. That's not streams. That's people getting in their cars, driving to Tower Records or Sam Goody and buying physical CDs and cassette tapes.
It was an event, a cultural event, and it went on to sell, what, quadruple platinum?
At least. And tracks like What's My Name and Gin and Juice were just, they were inescapable.
They were. But more importantly, I think, the album effectively defined the G-Funk genre. It codified that entire West Coast aesthetic. The slow-rolling bass lines, the high-pitched synthesizers, the clever P-Funk samples.
But, and this is the massive but that hangs over this entire period while he is sitting on top of the entire world with the #1 album, he is literally on trial for his life.
This is the most dramatic, most surreal period of his entire existence. It's August 1993, so this is even before the album drops.
Right.
A confrontation happens in a park in the Palms neighborhood of Los Angeles. A man named Philip Oldemariam, who was a rival gang member, is shot and killed. Snoop was driving the vehicle. His bodyguard, a man named McKinley Lee, fired the shot.
And the charge wasn't manslaughter or self-defense. They went for the maximum.
First-degree murder.
Right.
Both of them. And you have to remember the context of the time. The media narrative was that gangster rap was a plague, a virus.
There's a moral panic.
A total moral panic. It was dangerous, violent, misogynistic. So the prosecution wasn't just trying a man. In many ways, they felt like they were trying the entire genre of music. They wanted to prove that the lyrics he wrote were a confession of his actual character.
To defend himself, Snoop hired the absolute heavyweight, Johnny Cochran.
The same lawyer from the Dream Team who would, just a short time later, go on to defend O.J. Simpson. So it was a complete media circus. You had Snoop releasing these iconic music videos, and then the next morning, walking into court in a suit and tie.
And art was imitating life in real time. I mean, he released a short film and a soundtrack in 1994 called Murder Was the Case.
That film is so surreal to watch now. In the movie, Snoop's character literally makes a deal with the devil to survive a shooting. He was actively monetizing his own potential demise.
It was a high-wire act.
A total high-wire act of marketing and reality just blurring together into one thing.
And then the verdict finally comes down on February 20th, 1996.
Acquitted. Both he and McKinley Lee were cleared of the murder charges. It's interesting. The case files were formally sealed just recently in 2024.
So it's officially over, but the psychological impact on Snoop at the time must have been profound.
It was. He went on record multiple times saying he wanted to leave the gangsta lifestyle behind completely. He felt that if he kept going down that path, he would either be assassinated or he'd end up in prison for good.
And he wasn't being paranoid. I mean, the entire environment around him was literally collapsing. Death Row Records was imploding.
It was a disaster zone. Tupac Shakur was murdered in September of '96. The label's CEO, Suge Knight, was indicted on racketeering charges. The very label that had built Snoop's entire career was quickly becoming a graveyard, both literally and figuratively.
So when Snoop releases his second album, Ty Dog Father, in late 1996, the whole vibe is completely different.
It's a world away from Doggystyle. For one, Dr. Dre had already left the label because of disputes with Suge, so Snoop had to co-produce it himself with Daz Dillinger and DJ Pooh.
And the sound.
The sound was softer, the gangster edge was noticeably dulled. It still sold well because, you know, he was Snoop Dogg.
Yeah.
But it wasn't the cultural phenomenon that Doggystyle was. Not even close.
And this is where he starts to run into the wall, the business side of things. He starts to realize the nature of the deal he signed way back when.
He realizes the contract he signed with Death Row was, well, let's call it draconian. It was incredibly restrictive.
How so?
Death Row owned everything, his masters, his publishing, his image. It was a time-based contract, which meant they owned his entire creative output for a set number of years. He was trapped.
So what if he'd do? He couldn't leave.
He engaged in a creative strike, a work stoppage. He just flat out refused to produce any more tracks for Suge Knight until the contract expired.
He just waited them out.
He did. Well, he did record one more track for them.
Which one?
A track that was explicitly and simply titled Fuck Death Row.
Subtle. Very subtle.
Very. But it was a clear signal. It marked the end of an era. He was finally free, but now he needed a new home. And the choice he made? It shocked everybody.
He went south. He signed with Master P and No Limit Records.
A move that confused so many people, especially the coastal elites in hip-hop. Why go from the polished, smooth, expensive-sounding G-funk of the West Coast to the gritty, bounce-influenced mass-production sound of New Orleans?
Yeah, why did he do that? Was it just desperation? Was it the only deal on the table?
No, I think it was a very calculated strategy. Snoop said he liked that No Limit handmade their material to fit the artist, but I think the more important factor was that Master P was running a business, not a gang.
Right. It was stable.
It was stable and it was profitable. Master P was churning out albums at this incredible pace, and he was known for paying his artists. Snoop needed cash flow, and maybe more than that, he needed safety.
So from 1998 to 2000, we get the No Limit era, a whole different Snoop.
Yeah, you get albums like Day Game Is to Be Sold, Not to Be Told, and No Limit Top Dog. And commercially, they were very successful. He kept his name out there.
But critically,
Critically, a lot of people felt the sound just didn't quite fit Snoop's smooth delivery. It felt a little clunky, a little forced, but it did what it needed to do. It kept him relevant, and crucially, it kept him solvent.
he proved he could survive outside the death row machine. But then, in the early 2000s, we see another big shift. The emergence of the pimp persona.
This is the Pharrell Williams and the Neptunes era, a huge pivot. He signs with Geffen with their Star Trek imprint. The album Pay the Cost to Be DeBoss signals the shift, but the real peak is the 2004 album, R&G, Rhythm and Gangsta, the masterpiece.
Which has Drop It like it's hot on it.
His first ever #1 single on the Billboard Hot 100. And you have to think about that for a second.
That's crazy.
Gin and Juice didn't go to #1. What's my name? It didn't. But Drop It Like It's Hot did. The sheer minimalism of that Neptunes beat with Snoop's tongue clicks and smooth flow, it was absolutely everywhere.
And he had successfully transitioned from gangsta to this sort of smooth, almost cartoonish, stylized pimp figure.
He did. And speaking of that image, there's a detail in the sources from that time that I found kind of jaw-dropping. In a 2006 Rolling Stone interview, he claimed this wasn't just an image he was playing with.
Right, what do you mean?
He claimed that between 2003 and 2004, he was actually a professional pimp. For real.
Oh.
He called it his natural calling and said, and this is a direct quote, it was like shooting layups. He claimed to have a stable of women and that he toured with them on a Playboy bus.
I mean, was that real? Or was that just marketing hyperbole to sell the image?
It's impossible to say for sure, but whether it was real or just feeding the mythology, it definitely worked.
Yeah.
It added this layer of illicit glamour to his persona without the real-world grittiness of street violence.
But just as he cements that whole persona, he starts getting, weird. In a really good way. He starts bending genres like crazy.
The chameleon phase begins. This is where he becomes unpredictable. He does the title track for a Bollywood movie, Sing Is King, in 2008.
I remember that. Then he collaborates with Katy Perry on California Girls in 2010.
And that Katy Perry track is a monster hit.
Yeah.
That's the moment where, like, grandmas and toddlers and everyone in between knows who Snoop Dogg is. He's basically a full-blown pop star at that point.
He became safe enough for Top 40 radio, which is incredible considering where he started. But then he takes this incredibly sharp left turn in 2012. He goes to Jamaica.
The Snoop Lion era. I remember this so clearly. It felt like a global fever dream.
It really did.
He goes to Jamaica, he has this spiritual awakening, and he claims to be the reincarnation of Bob Marley.
He changes his name to Snoop Lion.
Releases a full reggae album, reincarnated, and a documentary to go with it. It was a total immersion into a new identity.
How was it accepted? Was it seen as a genuine spiritual journey or just a gimmick?
The results were very mixed. The album did okay on the charts, but the cultural reception was complicated. Bunny Wailer, an absolute legend from Bob Marley's band The Wailers, he criticized it very heavily.
What did he say?
He called it fraudulent. He accused Snoop of cultural appropriation, of just using Rastafari culture as a costume to sell records.
Ouch. That's harsh.
That was very harsh. Snoop kind of dismissed the criticism, saying his spiritual journey was personal and nobody could judge it. But you'll notice he didn't stay a lion for very long.
Right. He pivoted again.
Immediately. He did a pure funk album with Damn Funk in 2013 called 7 Days of Funk. And then, maybe the most surprising turn of all, in 2018, he releases a full double-disc gospel album.
Bible of Love.
And for that one, he called himself a born-again Christian. It feels like he's just walking into a costume shop and trying on every single hat on the shelf to see what fits.
Or maybe he realizes that Snoop is the brand and the genre is just the packaging. The music almost becomes secondary to the personality who's delivering it.
That's a great way to put it. He can sell you gospel, reggae, or funk, and you buy it not necessarily for the genre, but because he is the one selling it to you.
And then we get the ultimate full circle moment, the one that ties the whole story together, February 2022.
He acquires the Death Row Records brand from M&RK Music Group.
Think about that. The label that launched him, the label he went to war with, the label he had to literally escape from.
He bought it. He owns it now.
That is the ultimate power move in music history. I can't think of a bigger one.
It's incredible. And to celebrate, he released his 20th studio album, Missionary, in 2024, and it's produced entirely by Dr. Dre. They called it a spiritual sequel to Doggystyle, from employee to owner.
But the music, at this point, it's really only half the story. Maybe even less than half. We have to talk about Snoop the Mogul, because his business portfolio is just... it's bafflingly diverse.
It is the absolute definition of diversification.
Yeah.
I mean, let's just look at media first. He realized really early on that he had genuine comedic timing.
Doggy Fizzle Televizzle on MTV. I loved that show.
It was a sketch show, and he was genuinely funny. He wasn't taking himself too seriously at all. And that led to all these roles in movies like Starsky and Hutch, The Wash, and even a serious role in Training Day, where he played a villain really, really well.
And we can't skip over Soul Plane.
We probably could skip over Soul Plane from a critical standpoint, but culturally, you're right. It cemented him as this comedic fixture. But the absolute crown jewel of his media reinvention has to be the partnership with Martha Stewart.
Martha and Snoop's potluck dinner party. I mean, who in their right mind pitched that? Hey, let's take the domestic goddess of Connecticut and the dog father from Long Beach and have them cook together. Sounds like a joke.
It sounds like a Mad Libs, but it was genius. Pure genius. It played on the obvious contrast, but it also revealed this genuine, surprising chemistry they had.
It did.
And it softened his image completely. I mean, you can't be terrified of a guy who is happily icing cupcakes with Martha Stewart. It made him a household name for a demographic of people that never, ever would have bought Doggystyle. It stripped away the last remnants of fear that were associated with his brand.
And he didn't just stop at traditional TV. He got into tech.
This is the part that surprises a lot of people. In 2014, he participated in Reddit's $50 million funding round.
Wait. Snoop Dogg is an early investor in Reddit.
He is. He also invested in Ease, the cannabis delivery startup, which makes sense. And he founded his own digital media site focused on cannabis culture, Mary Jane. He even, for a while, sat on the board of directors for FaZe Clan, the big gaming organization.
That gaming connection is really strong, too. He's an operator skin in Call of Duty.
Right.
You can literally play as Snoop Dogg. He launched his own Gangsta Gaming League.
He's smart. He just goes where the eyeballs are. He's not precious about high art versus low art. If it's popular, Snoop wants to be there.
And then, of course, there are the consumer products.
Oh, the products. Leafs by Snoop. He was the first major celebrity to really brand a line of legal marijuana products. That's a no-brainer. But then you have stuff like Snoop Cali Red Wine with the 19 Crimes brand.
I see that everywhere I go. The bottle has his face on it, and the cork has his face on it.
And now there are gin and juice, pre-mixed cocktails, and cookbooks. He has two, From Cook to Cook and Goon with the Spoon.
The titles are amazing. And didn't he set some kind of world record related to gin and juice?
He did. It was in 2018 at the Bottle Rock Music Festival. He set the Guinness World Record for the largest Paradise cocktail. It was basically a massive functioning vat of gin and juice.
How big are we talking?
550 liters.
That is a lot of gin.
It's a swimming pool of gin. But again, look at what he's doing. It's the monetization of his own history. He took a lyric from 1993 and turned it into a world record and a successful product line a quarter of a century later.
We also have to touch on his involvement in sports, because this seems like it's a real passion project for him. It's not just business.
It absolutely is. The Snoop Youth Football League, which he founded way back in 2005. This isn't just a celebrity slapping their name on a jersey and writing a check.
No, he coaches.
He coaches. He's on the sidelines. He's involved. It's for at-risk youth. And it has actually produced a number of NFL players. Guys like C.J. Stroud and Jack Jones came through his league.
There's a documentary about it, right? Coach Snoop.
Yeah, and it's great. It shows how deeply he cares about these kids. He's screaming at the refs. He's hugging his players. He is fully 100% invested.
And then you fast forward to him at the Paris 2024 Olympics. He was just everywhere. He carried the Olympic torch. He was doing commentary. He was basically the American ambassador of good vibes for the entire game.
And he was inducted into the celebrity wing of the WWE Hall of Fame in 2016. He even had to step in and save a match at WrestleMania 39.
I remember seeing this. Shane McMahon tore his quad muscle mid-match.
Totally unscripted injury. The whole segment was about to die. And Snoop he improvises. He gets in the ring, throws a punch, does a people's elbow, and pins the other guy to finish the match.
That just sums him up perfectly, doesn't it? He just improvises and somehow always wins.
Precisely, yeah.
Okay, now, we need to peel back the curtain a little bit on his personal life. Because for all the fame and all the chaos, he's managed to keep a somewhat stable, albeit complex, family life going.
He married his high school sweetheart, Shantae Taylor, way back in 1997.
And in the world of entertainment, marrying your high school sweetheart is incredibly rare. Staying married is even rarer.
Well, it wasn't a completely straight line. He actually filed for divorce in 2004, citing irreconcilable differences. But they never went through with it. They reconciled, and they renewed their wedding vows in 2008 on a ranch.
They have 3 children together, and he has another son from a different relationship.
Right. And they've also faced real tragedy together, publicly. In 2019, his grandson, this is his eldest son, Corday's child, died just 10 days after he was born. And it was a moment where we saw a very vulnerable, very human, grieving side of the family, kind of grounded the larger-than-life character of Snoop Dogg back into the reality of just being a grandfather.
He also has some surprising family connections within the entertainment industry.
We already mentioned Jeet Dogg being his cousin and Warren G being his stepbrother, but he's also first cousins with the WWE superstar Mercedes Moné, who used to be Sasha Banks.
I did not know that.
And he claims to be related to the singers Brandy and Ray J, though Brandy has been a little bit vague about confirming that one over the years.
Let's talk about the elephant in the room. Or maybe it's the cloud in the room. Cannabis.
It is his trademark. It's as much a part of his brand as the braids. He once claimed in a Reddit AMA session that he smoked 81 blunts a day.
81. How is that even physically possible? How do you function? That's basically a blunt every 12 minutes if you never ever sleep.
A very high tolerance, I assume. But he's also a master of using that reputation for marketing. Which brings us to 2023.
The announcement.
He releases this very solemn black and white photo of himself and a statement on social media that just says, "After much consideration and conversation with my family, I've decided to give up smoke."
And the entire internet melted down. People were losing their minds. They were like, if Snoop quits weed, the simulation is officially broken.
And then a day or two later, it was revealed to be a commercial for a smokeless fire pit.
The Solo Stove. It was a brilliant piece of trolling. Absolutely genius.
It really was. But his cannabis use has had very real consequences over the years, especially internationally.
Right, he was banned from a few countries.
He's banned from entering the UK for years after a big brawl at Heathrow Airport in 2006. He was banned from entering Australia in 2007. He got a 2-year ban from Norway in 2012 after customs agents found him with 8 grams of marijuana.
It's kind of funny now in retrospect, but being banned from entire countries is a serious problem for a touring artist.
It's a huge impediment. But even most of those bans have since been lifted. He's been welcomed back to the UK, and according to Snoop's version of the story, it was because Prince Harry and Prince William were fans, and the Queen herself granted him permission.
I want to believe that's exactly how it happened. Grandmother, please let the dog father into the country.
His retelling of it is certainly very colorful.
One area where he is surprisingly difficult to pin down is politics. You'd expect him, based on his image, to be firmly on one side, but his record is, it's very fluid.
Fluid is the perfect word for it. In 2012, for example, he endorsed Ron Paul for president.
The Libertarian Republican, that's not what I would have expected.
No one expected it. Then he voted for Obama. In 2016, he was a vocal supporter of Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
But then, look at his relationship with Donald Trump.
Yeah, that has been a complete roller coaster.
A wild ride. In 2017, Snoop released a music video for the song Lavender, where he pointed a toy gun at a clown dressed up as Donald Trump. It was a mock execution.
And Trump was furious.
Trump was furious. He tweeted about failing Snoop Dogg and his failing career. It was a genuine public feud.
But then, something changed.
Fast forward to early 2024, Snoop goes on record saying he has nothing but love and respect for Donald Trump. And just this year, in 2025, he performed at a Trump-sponsored crypto event.
So what explains the complete 180? Why the flip?
The common speculation is that it was because Trump, before leaving office, granted a pardon to the co-founder of Death Row Records, Michael Harry O'Harris. And Snoop had lobbied very, very hard for that pardon. It seems to show that Snoop's politics are often personal and transactional, rather than being purely ideological. It's about loyalty to his circle, to his people.
He does have a strong activist streak, though, on certain issues.
He does, and he has for a while. He advocated for same-sex marriage way back in 2013, which was not a given in the hip-hop culture of the time. In 2016, he co-led a peaceful march to the LAPD headquarters with The Game, following the police shootings in Dallas.
And what about gun control?
Despite his own past gun charges, he has been a surprisingly consistent voice for tighter gun control. He even released a song about it with his daughter called No Guns Allowed.
It's that complexity again, isn't it? The guy with the famous gun charge from the 90s singing No Guns Allowed? The guy who mocked a president performing at his gala years later?
He contains multitudes, as they say.
So let's try to bring all of this together. We've gone from the streets of Long Beach to the boardroom, from a first-degree murder trial to the Olympics.
It's a trajectory that is almost unique in American public life. I can't think of a direct comparison. He started as a gangsta rap lightning rod. He was a symbol of everything that mainstream America feared in the early 90s, and he somehow ended up as this beloved, cuddly national mascot.
How does he stay so relevant? I mean, most rappers from 1993 are either retired or they're playing state fairs. Snoop is arguably more famous and more visible now than he was even then.
It's one word: adaptation. He never, ever fought the cultural current. When G-Funk started to fade, he went to No Limit. When pop music took over the charts, he did a song with Katy Perry. When social media exploded, he became a meme king.
He gets it.
He realizes that Snoop Dogg is a feeling, it's a vibe, more than it is just a musician. He's charismatic, he's funny, and he somehow feels authentic, even when he is, by any definition, selling out.
He became the cool uncle everyone wants to hang out with.
Exactly. He made himself completely approachable without ever losing his core sense of cool. It's a magic trick.
So, okay, here's the final thought I want to leave everyone with. Snoop has successfully and brilliantly monetized every single aspect of his life. His criminal past became a movie and a soundtrack. His love of weed became a venture capital portfolio. His role as a father became a reality TV show. His ability to cook became a book and a TV show with Martha Stewart.
Right. Every part of his persona is a product.
So, does his evolution represent the ultimate triumph of personal branding, where the personality actually supersedes the art itself? Is Snoop Dogg, the person, now a bigger, more valuable product than Snoop Dogg, the rapper?
It's a fascinating question, and I think it's the core of his whole story. When you buy a ticket to see him live now, or you buy a bottle of his wine, are you doing it for the artistry of the music, or are you doing it just to be in the orbit of the Dogfather? I think for most people now, we know the answer. The man became the myth, and then the myth became the business.
And on that note, we're going to wrap up this deep dive. Thanks for listening, and keep it smooth.
Stay curious, everybody.